Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with JcrOffroad, and in this video I'm going to walk you through how to install our Vanguard front bumper on your Bronco. So to begin bumper disassembly, we're going to start down here with the splash guard. For that, you just need a 15mm socket, and you can remove the 6 mounting bolts holding that in place. So the back edge of that skid plate is actually slotted, so these back 2 mounting bolts here don't actually have to be fully removed. They can just be left loose like this and then ran back in place once that's out of the way if you're not replacing this lower splash guard at this time. Then you can remove these little tow hook covers by simply pressing in on 2 side tabs. There's one on each side here, and then pulling forward. So next, you're going to need to remove these plastic covers. These are just held in with clips, so you can simply pull out on them, starting on this inside edge, and then work your way across to that last outside clip. And then you want to be careful here because you do have wiring attached on the back side. So for this, it's just going to be your sensor wiring. You can simply pull out on these 2 tabs while applying a little pressure back from the other side on the sensor, and pop those free. So next, using that same 15mm socket, you can remove the 6 mounting bolts holding your bumper in place. Now if yours is equipped with these parking and proximity sensors, a good way to do this is to simply loosen the 3 on this passenger side and then come over and completely remove the driver's side bolts while supporting the bumper, so that you can then kind of pull it part way out and reach in behind here to disconnect the wire harness plug, hooking this harness to the body. Then once you have this plug freed up, you can come back over here, make sure you're supporting the entire bumper, and fully remove these last 3 bolts. Now if your Bronco's equipped with the modular steel bumper, we filmed that disassembly on a previous install, so we can show you some of that footage now on how to get yours removed. Now the first thing you're going to need to do is remove these plastic cover panels from each side. For those, they're just going to be held in with 4 plastic clips. You'll just need a panel tool or a flat screwdriver. You can pull the center out, and that should allow you to remove the entire clip. There's going to be 2 down here at the bottom, as you see, as well as 2 more located up here by the factory recovery point. Now with those out of the way, there's still a couple retaining clips in here behind this panel. So to get those freed up, you're simply going to grab the back edge of the panel and kind of gently but firmly, if that makes sense, pull out, and that should release those clips. Do the same thing over on this other side, and that'll pop those free. Now go ahead and do the same thing over on the other side. Next, if your Bronco is equipped with the factory parking and proximity sensors, you're going to need to locate that electrical connector for that harness that ties the bumper harness into the vehicle and disconnect it at this time. Once you have that done, you're going to need to grab a 15mm socket and take out the 3 mounting bolts on each side of the bumper. Now, these are the only thing holding the bumper up to the vehicle, so this would be a good time to either have the help of a friend or just to use caution, maybe leave one end loose on each side until you're ready to pull this off. To begin disassembly, you're going to need a 13mm socket. You'll be removing these 4 screws on each side and then removing these mount plates. Now once you get those out of the way, you'll be able to access all the Christmas tree style retaining clips holding this harness into the bumper. So you can begin popping those out using a panel tool to free this up. With the main harness connection pushed to the side, you can come in from the back side and push through all of these oval Christmas tree style retainers from this metal bracket. Once you have those freed up, you'll need a T40 Torx bit to remove the 3 bolts across the top here holding this in place, as well as 4 along the bottom. Once you have those removed, you can pull this metal structure from the back of the bumper and then repeat that same process over on the other side. With both of those metal brackets out of the way, you'll come down here to the bottom center portion of the bumper. You'll have 3 more of those oval Christmas tree style clips to push through the bottom. And then again, using your T40 Torx, you'll have 2 bolts here to remove, and then you'll have to flip this over and get these 3 from the other side. While you have the bumper in this orientation, you're going to have 2 more of those clips that need to be pushed through to free it up from the bumper. Now, using just a little bit of caution to hold on to that metal inner structure, I can flip this back over and remove this inner center piece. Now lastly, you're going to need to remove each of these 4 sensors from the back of the bumper. So there's just going to be a tab on each side of this retainer that need to be pried out, and then you can push in from the outside and free those up. Now this entire harness can be pulled free from the bumper to be installed into your new one. So now before you can get your new bumper installed, you're going to need to pull your wiring harness out of this factory bumper. For that, you can start with these outside 4 bolts in your 15mm socket, and then you can come in here with a 10mm and remove the inner 4 bolts. That should allow you to lift the steel structure out of the bumper. Now before that steel structure is going to lift completely out, you're either going to have to pop this clip out or simply cut the zip tie portion here next to the harness, making sure you're not actually cutting into there, and then kind of feed it back through as you lift this off. Okay, so then before you can completely pull the harness out of this bumper, you're going to want to disconnect it on each fog light, and then out on these corners you may have to remove the actual sensor from the harness with just a little single press tab so that you can feed that up through this hole without having to remove that fog light from the bumper. Then just work your way along, pulling all these clips free until you can remove this harness. So now we can get all our accessories as well as our factory wiring harness routed into this bumper. You can kind of see how we already started this one here. It simply runs in through the cutouts in all the bumper bracketry behind here. You want to make sure that you get the main connection back on the driver's side so you're putting it in here correctly, and then we can start installing the sensors. For these, you're going to have 4 cutouts here in the bumper in their respective locations. You're going to have 4 grommets supplied in your hardware kit that can simply be pushed into these holes. You want to make sure that you get these in and seated nicely all the way around. The edges aren't curled under or anything. And then the sensors will simply slide into those from the back side. Now, when installing these, we do recommend putting a small bead of RTV sealant around the outside edge of the sensor here before putting it in. And then that can be just a little bit slick until it dries. So it's not a bad idea to put a small piece of tape over the back just to hold that temporarily till that RTV is dry. Then to tie this harness in, you can simply use some zip ties to the insides of these mounting brackets down in here. And then along the center, on the bottom of the winch plate, you can use the factory clips into the provided holes. Now, if your vehicle wasn't equipped with front sensors, just go ahead and install the supplied plastic plugs. After that, we can move on to our front pod light installation. So then you can just assemble your light with the brackets and hardware supplied by the manufacturer, slide these in through the back, and then bolt them in to our light mounting tab. Now we're ready to throw the bumper up on here. One thing we wanted to show you that can be helpful as a quick tip is on these outside 2 bolts, we went ahead and threaded one back through that nut plate from the back side, run forward, just to use as a guide, basically an alignment pin as we slide the bumper up on. And then once we get these 4 bolts installed, we'll come back those out, and then reinstall them from the front side. Then you can grab a friend to help you slide the bumper in place and get those inside bolts started. So once you get that hardware started, you flip those outside bolts around. You can check all your alignment, make sure you look level left to right, and then tighten all that hardware up. After that, don't forget to come back and plug in your main wire harness connection out here, and then tie up all your wiring. Now, if your Bronco is equipped with a front mounted camera and you intend to relocate it, you're going to want to get that removed from here at this time before you get any winch or tube work installed. So the first step here, you obviously need to pop the hood, and then we're going to remove this top cover panel. So for that, you simply need a flat screwdriver to get under the edge of these clips, and you can pop that up and the entire clip can be removed. Do that all the way along here and then pull this free. Then here just behind the top of the grill, you'll undo these 4 mounting screws using a 10mm socket. And then before pulling out on this at all, you want to make sure to come in here and disconnect the coax cable for your front mounted camera. Along with that, you're also going to need to disconnect the sprayer nozzle here by simply squeezing in on the outsides and pulling that connection free. Then you can very carefully pull out on this grill assembly and work your way around to pop all the clips free. So then once we have this removed, you can work your way along the back up here toward the center, removing all the clips, and over here the hose from the clips. Then once you've removed all the clips, grab a T30 Torx and pull the 3 mounting screws holding this cover plate in. Then this outside cover should pop free, allowing you to slide the camera and sprayer assembly up off of this bracket. So then before you get the grill reinstalled, you'll want to come in and route your cable extension down here behind the headlight until you can pull it out between the grille and the bumper. Then it's just a matter of pulling all the excess through, clipping the other end in here, and then you can deal with this once your winch and your camera mount is in place. And then your sprayer hose extension is just going to route down through this same path. So to add in your hose extension, you're basically going to want to replace this length of hose here that goes from the body of the vehicle out to the camera. So you can simply disconnect this here, and then you'll want to retain this male and this female connector end. For that, you can take a sharp razor knife and very lightly cut the hose just at the back edge of those connections, which should allow you to pull it free. And then setting the old hose aside, grab your new hose extension to slide back on to those barbed fittings. Then this end will simply connect right back into the camera, and you can route this and connect it right back into the body. With that routed, we can go ahead and reinstall the grille and top cover panel. Next, your winch can be installed into the mounting tray by simply placing it down through the top, and then you can access all that winch mounting hardware through this bottom opening. So at this point, you can also install any tube work that's going to be going on your bumper. These will simply mount here to this top face, and then they can be bolted down using the 3/8 button head hardware in your bolt pack. So now we don't have any more hardware to access inside of here. We can install our center cover plate. You just want to make sure before this goes in to install the 4 5/16 clip nuts out here on each corner. And then once in place here behind this face, you'll install 4 5/16 button heads from the outside. So next you're going to want to take your camera along with the front cover, slide it into the front of your camera relocation mount, and get it seated flush. You'll know what the front or back of this is by the way these flanges face out. And then once you have that seated in there nicely, you can cover that up with that front clamp plate and then install your 1/4 inch button head hardware. Get both of these started and then tighten them up with a 5/32 hex. Once you have that clamped in place, this will simply be installed to the bumper by clamping it behind the fair lead. So then once you get that in place on the bumper, you're just going to need to finish routing your cable extension along with your sprayer hose, and then you can throw whatever winch hook you're using on to complete your install. So if you guys have any questions about this front bumper install or any other product here at JCR Off-Road, feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at info@jcroffroad.com or give us a phone call, 269-353-1184.